Already getting some
I
background
was
banter from the
I was
Huntress
just
crew.
laughing at the IE6 comment.
Well, hey, everybody, thank you so much for chiming in. Really love to spend some time with you all for Tradecraft Tuesday. Have a pretty cool topic to share with you all, but we'll give it just a few more minutes in case anyone will chime in case anyone is, hey, a little bit slow to come join the party with us. We'll give it just a few moments, but if I may, I'd love to ask, hey, where are you all calling in from? Where are you all at? I'm a little bit mobile today, not in the usual home office studio, but with the snowy mountains of Breckenridge, Colorado, over here in one of the ski resorts. So having a good time. Would love to see where you all are from. Iowa, Central Europe. Goodness gracious. It's super
A
cool.
lot of answers.
Hey, yeah, it's awesome. Thank you for doing this. It's always really cool. Um, with that, look, we're in big marker this time around. Used to us, I don't know, doing some webinars over Zoom, but I think we're still playing and experimenting with this new webinar little platform. So I would love your feedback if you're having a good time with this. I think we are. It's honestly much cleaner than Zoom. Not as many
Yeah.
windows open all at the same time.
Yeah, I like the way that the chat and Q&A is presented here.
Super cool. Excellent. Well,
Middle
hey,
Earth.
Middle Earth.
Right.
Wow. Look, I got to admit, I am on a laptop today, which limits me to one screen. So I'm going to rely on Caleb for driving. Hey, kind of rolling with the screen share when the time comes. But I do have to say, look, I hope the show can be a little bit more interactive. Would love to get all your input, all your opinions, all your just knee-jerk reactions in chat. So please, please, please don't hesitate. Be part of the community here with us. We're excited about it. With that, I guess we're almost just 3 minutes into the top of the hour, Caleb. Should we get the show started? Get this thing on the road?
I can go ahead and start sharing slides. Y'all see that all right? Sweet.
Super cool. Alrighty. Well, hey, I'll keep us cruising. But look, we wanted to try to get a little bit ambitious with this one, but I do have to temper expectations. Because look, we wanted to dig into 500,000 phishing emails in 1 hour. Which is high stakes, which is, hey, you know, a big premise. But let me totally be candid. There's no way we're just going to get through all of them. So we wanted to go through a little bit of a highlight reel, maybe some safari ride together to chat about some of the stuff that, I don't know, might be a risk or a threat in your inbox. And we'll give you a little bit of context and background on that. But with that, I don't know, Caleb, can we move on? I think the next slide is a silly obligatory introduction. Is that right? Hey, who the heck are you?
So yeah, I'm Caleb Stewart, Principal Security Researcher here at Huntress. I've been here for a few years now. I'm a lot of times in the background doing technical things, but I decided to come out here and talk to you guys today.
Super cool. I'm John. Hi. Hey, hello. Also, similar sort of story as Caleb, one of the nerds and geeks and security researchers here at Huntress. So if I may, I think this topic is kind of close to home for me because I was trying to chip away at maybe making some of those phishing emails or some of those things that we could use to better test and assess, hey, your readiness and your awareness, your security awareness. So that's one of the things, hey, we've been trying to hone in on is that security awareness training and getting folks in the know on that shady stuff that might just come over email a lot of the time. A phish, I don't know, a scam, maybe some phone calls, weird messages that you get that just don't quite seem right. Maybe they'll include some malware and there's more to dig into, but we're excited about that. If I could, I will admit we normally have a formal news segment for a lot of Tradecraft Tuesday. Whoops. Uh-oh. I don't know. We could blame John. We can blame Caleb, but I dropped the ball. Look, we don't have any of those formal news for you, so I'm super interested if there is anything in the chat that you all are interested, and maybe just some quick shooting from the hip discussion. I know the Alf V, one of the Black Cat ransomware gangs, got into a little bit of drama in the cybercrime scene. They had updated their Onion site, you know, their leak site over across the dark web and the Tor hidden services. They had mentioned that they were seized by law enforcement, but it was a scam. It was a joke. It was some social engineering, and I don't know, just kind of a ploy and play that they were not, in fact, seized. But I got to dig down a little bit more into that story. I don't know. Is there anything you've been hearing about, Caleb? Is it Screen Connect? Is it Lockbit? What's on in your world?
Goodness, I mean, the last thing was Screen Connect. That was a big one, but I know we've already beat that horse to death.
That's for sure. Yeah. Jamie's saying Lockbit. What is Lockbit up to these days? I think they're still seeing some new incoming breaches. At least the last I saw on the Twitterverse. Microsoft breach, I did see some more coming from that. I haven't dug into the article, but VMware vulnerability, yeah. And there's a lot. It always feels like nonstop. All right, cool. With that, I guess we can keep on rolling to the main show. Oh, the CISA one. Oh, the CISA one might be interesting and worthwhile to chat about. I'm sorry, I don't want us to be just all over the place. But what do you think? Is there anything to did you see that article, Caleb?
I'm going to be honest. I have not seen the CISA one.
Okay. So let me say that I was just over at Right of Boom, one of the events that we were up to. And hey, huge shout out to the Cyber Call, Andrew Morgan, and all the super cool folks that put together the Right of Boom event. And we had for our talk and our presentation, Chris Henderson chatting with some of the members from CISA. And we talked a lot about supply chain, talked a lot about software bill of materials, but just following that, we see the news articles come out. Whoopsies, a little bit of a hiccup over on CISA front, taking some systems offline. And it was a really tough one because I think it was Ivanti. And that is a little bit of a slap in the face considering how everyone was screaming and shouting about Ivanti and those vulnerabilities. But I don't mean to drill down into the weeds. What are you thinking, Caleb? Should we get to the show? Can you offer some background context?
Yeah, for sure. So basically what happened here is that we have at Huntress through our security awareness training curricula, a large backlog of emails. Maybe backlog's the wrong word, a bucket of emails. When people report phishing emails to us, we then collect those. And so we have this large library of emails that have been reported as phishing or to us. And so today we just kind of wanted to go through some of those, see, hey, what are we seeing? Is there anything that is really common? Is there anything we can look out for? Is there anything that's just kind of interesting to look at? So that was kind of the premise here. Just kind of bounce around through some of that, and maybe provide some insight or have some chat about what phishing looks like. How can we look out for it? How can we protect ourselves? That kind of thing.
And in the next slide, I tried to add a little bit of I don't know, maybe a visual as to how this came to life. Because say again, all of these emails are coming from the incredible resource from curricula and the Huntress security awareness training. But it's when anyone were to click the report phishing, and if we were able to kind of be in the loop and catch sight of what they saw. So I sent a silly message to Caleb with my broken English and horrible spelling all along. Hey, do you want to do Tradecraft Tuesday? And if they were to report phishing, that would get into this pile. Let me note, if I may, that could include anything. Like that could be any email that you just decided to click the button for. It could very well be a webinar invite to Tradecraft Tuesday. No, I'm kidding. It could be just promo deals from a genuine, legitimate company. It could just be, I don't know, usual marketing stuff that gets sent into your emails. So I'll add the disclaimer and we'll touch on that just as well. A lot of those things weren't even phishing or malware. And these could very well be coming from like our own simulation and hey, our own test environment stuff. Like, hey, you got an email that was intentionally a phishing test from even curricula or from even like KnowBe4 or others that you know out about. But with that, you still get some real threats. Is there stuff that kind of rose to the top of the pile for you, Caleb?
I mean, to me, I think some of the big ones which we have noted here that I saw in the data set were we saw a lot of CEO impersonation, which we'll talk about a little bit here in a minute. And then also the voicemail ones. There were a lot of those in the data that we had just coming through saying you had a voicemail, which is so funny to me because is that a normal thing? Do people have notifications in their email for voicemails at some service? I don't know. Like who's getting that email and thinking it's real, I guess. I don't want to be mean to someone who may have been tricked by it, but like I've just never seen that as part of any kind of phone service. You never get an email saying you have a voicemail.
We were dancing with this earlier, and I don't want to, Caleb, I don't want to be throwing you under the bus by any means, but we were bantering, riffing, and I was like, Caleb, do any of these look familiar? Have you seen any of these? And he's like, well, I don't really check my email all that often. I'm just in Slack.
Yeah, I'm definitely one of those people who is of the opinion email isn't needed for the most part. I mean, if you have like something like Slack or something, I don't know. I do not check my email. Email is for calendar invites and shared documents, and calendar invites go directly to Google Calendar, and shared documents pop up in my Google Drive. So I don't. That's just me.
All right. Well, let's keep cruising, if I may. Maybe we can hit the next slide. And I did see in chat someone had mentioned these are all a little bit ridiculous, are they not?
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta be honest, yeah. Granted, look, you're chatting with the folks. Maybe we're preaching to the choir in our own confirmation bias bubble here, where we hope we can be smart against this stuff. We hope that we're vigilant. We hope that we can identify and recognize these. But we understand that not everyone can. However, there are some that are just egregious. There are some that are just a little bit too wild, too silly, too stupid to.
Well, I think there is something to be said there, though, that like it's not. Even if they are a little bit silly or they are a little bit obnoxious, it can still fool people. And I think it comes down to, in a lot of cases, as you can see, even in this slide here, a couple of these, more than one of these emails is like, hey, we have this urgent thing that needs to happen. And I think that's where a lot of even what people will consider themselves the smarter people, or the people that are in the know or in that circle, like you said, might get tricked sometimes, is that like, maybe this is kind of believable. Maybe you are on your phone and you are looking at this in the morning as you're waking up, and you see an email supposedly from your CEO in this case saying, hey, I need you to join this Zoom right now, and here's a link. And it's not unbelievable, even if it feels a little silly for someone once in the span of years to accidentally click that. So I think it's, even if you feel like it's nothing, it's something to definitely be aware of. And I think urgency is a big thing. Like, emails are almost never urgent. If it says it's urgent, take a second to think about what you're reading.
Agreed. Well, hey, as we get into a little bit more of that fun safari ride, I would love if you in the chat are willing to just say, I don't know, call it out. Have you gotten an email like this? Have you gotten this exact email before? Have you seen this pretense? CEO impersonation, I feel like, is a given. Everyone ever, especially at Huntress, I think it's almost a sort of strange rite of passage or milestone as you're a new employee. Now you get a random message from someone, hey, chiming in. What's next for us? We keep cruising onward?
For sure. Oh, God.
Uh-oh.
If I figured out how to control my computer, that'd be helpful. So we just wanted to go through some of like the interesting ones we wanted to show you. Like I said, there's so many of these to go through. We definitely can't go through a huge percentage of them. We want to go through and say like, hey, here's some of these emails that were either interesting from a security perspective, maybe just a little funny. Depends on which one we pop into. Yeah, let's go through it.
Cool. Ooh.
This is one that I feel like a lot of people get. I mean, I know on the off chance I actually check my personal email, which is secret behind the curtain, even less than my Huntress email. Definitely there's things like this that come through. A lot of times Google will block them, but like stuff saying they're PayPal or stuff saying they're your bank or whatever. This is the most, I feel like everyone has seen this. This is really common. I think something to point out here though, and something to keep in mind is like, hey, where is this coming from? Especially when it has to do with money, especially when it has to do with those type of things. Like, hey, this was coming from a Gmail. I don't think PayPal is going to email you from Gmail. And the other thing to also keep in mind is that, like, if you have any kind of suspicion, which a firm address should be an immediate suspicion, but if you have any kind of suspicion of, hey, I don't know why I'm receiving this thing from PayPal or my bank or whatever, another place you could look is you can click into the email, and it's different depending on whatever email client you have, but you can look at show original or show source, and you can compare things like your the sender address to the from address. And if there's any differentiation there, sometimes those things can be spoofed. A lot of times, if you're something like on something like Gmail, those types of things won't even make it through anyway, because when those don't line up, it won't even show you the message. But depending on your email client, that is something to keep in mind as well, to just check and see, hey, is this even coming from the place that they say they are? It's the lowest hanging fruit way to look at this. But
And I know that seems so simple, but again, I don't know, maybe beat the drum. Look, again, this stuff works to some extent. For any long-standing friends of Huntress, I don't know, maybe folks have been tracking us through the years, what we've been up to. There's a story we love to tell about this baby shark malware, and that was delivered and distributed by phishing emails, phishing campaigns, and they have this weird sort of backstory of this advanced persistent threat, this APT hacker, Kimsuki, I think, and they would impersonate like Voice of America journalists or reporters. And when we got to dig into a real case of this, it's wild when we got to see some of the emails and how this all even started the infection chain for that case specifically. And they're impersonating, acting as a journalist, acting as a reporter from the Voice of America. And yet the email came from, I don't know if anyone remembered the slides or the story here, it came from yahoo.com. Voice of America probably not using that. So if we just had that look, if we had that gut check, I know it seems simple, but something worthwhile harping on.
Yep. Definitely. To me, the from address 99% of the time will tell you whether something is real or not. Because most of these, I mean, you mentioned they work a lot. And the reason they work a lot is because they go to so many people. Like if you send this to enough people and you try enough times, you're going to get hits on it. These things aren't meant to be like, they're going to trick most people. They're going to trick 2% of people. They're going to trick 10% of people, maybe. But then they're going to send it to 5 million people. And then they're going to get hits. So that's something to keep in mind, especially when you're looking at this stuff. It's not about this is going to trick everybody or this is going to work every time. It's going to be the few people who either were too busy to pay attention or the very few people who genuinely didn't realize that PayPal wouldn't email them from Gmail. But I think that's a very small percentage.
I'm excited about this next one because I wonder, and I hope I can hear from chat, have people seen this sort of style email come through very recently? Like, have you gotten an email like this in the past couple of weeks or months? I even made a stupid YouTube video chatting about the Norton scams or the Norton PDF or just, again, whatever vendor or whatever, I don't know, tech support or AV thing out and about. I see it flowing through in the chat. Yep, yes, yep, absolutely, yes. Super cool. I'm glad to get some a little bit topical, but what, if I may ask, Caleb, is there anything that just jumps out at you here?
To me, I think it's hard to tell from the way this was rendered to the data that we received, but the hello is obviously weird at the beginning. But the formatting is odd. I don't know what it is, and I can't, and this isn't super helpful, but something is not right in the way it's formatted that gives me pause initially.
I see some of the sentiments in chat. Hey, these are known refund scams. These are a lot of the, hey, maybe tech support phone call scams, because the phone number for the support line or the help desk or whatever is the biggest thing. Like, hey, different color, add a little bit more contrast, the highest header font size, just to make it big and to get someone on the phone where, hey, sure, maybe the email or the PDF attachment or whatever isn't the threat, but making this call and then having the person on the other end of the line go convince you to download TeamViewer, to get AnyDesk, to get Screen Connect, to give some remote control to your computer, that's when they'll start to do the wreak havoc, do damage. Hey, could we now, with access to your computer, get anything that you might have had in your bank account or Norton one way or another? The real threat is that phone call.
I think that is something to highlight as well, of like, generally any big company isn't going to be sending you phone numbers or external contact methods in an email. To me, if I receive something from a company and I'm like, I don't know why I'm receiving this, I don't remember doing this. For example, like, I didn't buy anything from Norton. Why am I receiving this email? And maybe I think it's real. Maybe I think that something happened and maybe it's some kind like identity theft or something. And I want to make sure everything's good with Norton. even if there's a number in an email or a link in an email, like just go to Norton's website instead. Don't click the thing from the email. Don't call the number from the email. Go to Norton's website, click on customer support, and contact them there and be like, hey, I got this thing. Is this right? In general, anything in an email that is external, just don't trust it, ideally. And this all goes back to like kind of what we mentioned at the beginning, where that sounds nice, but sometimes you're in a hurry and that's it'll happen. But if you have the time and you have the ability and the forethought to be like, hey, this email could be coming from anywhere theoretically. Maybe you're not skilled enough or you don't have the knowledge to go through email headers and validate all the signatures yourself manually because you didn't trust your email client or whatever. But at the very least, don't trust the things that are in the email and validate independently. You know that it's just claiming to be Norton. So go to Norton and ask Norton directly instead of using the links or the phone numbers from the email.
Caleb, I think you and I hear a whole lot of, I don't know, stupid echoes from some Coast Guard days. The phrase of trust but verify. How do we manipulate or mangle that? Is that verify, then sort of, kind of, maybe trust, but verify again after too?
Well, no, I mean, I think if you want to use that term, then I think what I just described is trust but verify. You're trusting that maybe this email is real, but you're verifying the content independently. So you're not saying maybe this email is real, so I'm going to believe everything in it and call the number that was included in the email. You're saying maybe this is real in the case of this. Maybe this is some kind of identity theft and they bought something from Norton for some reason. So I'm going to go check with Norton and separately go look up what I know for a fact is Norton's official website and their official customer support. And I'm going to ask them about it. And they'll probably tell you in half a second, hey, no, that's completely fake. Don't do that.
All right. What is our next phishing email on the pile?
What do we got? We got a quick find open. That's fun.
Now, I'll admit, I don't think there's a whole lot to riff off with this one. Because look, dumb, easy, hey, view an attachment. Subject line has a little bit of COVID-19 pandemic, fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the mix. The from address coming from a domain that's not a Gmail or a Yahoo, but maybe still something just out of the ordinary and not something easy to trust. Again, has anyone ever seen something like this? Has anyone seen exactly this message with a different, I don't know, from human? Am I barking up the wrong tree, Caleb, or what do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this is definitely a normal thing, but this goes back. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of due diligence you can do here. This is coming from an individual person asking you to open a document, so there's not a lot you could do. If their email server is valid and not blocked by all the spam filtering that is probably in place on your email server, it's gonna make it to your inbox. Do you know this person? I think is the only question you really ask. Like, is there a reason you receive? If not, then ignore it. If it's really that important, they'll contact you again. Like,
I think I saw it in the chat. I think I did see someone say, hey, you know what? This looks a little too much like a phishing test. One of those simulated things from, hey, a vendor or product to help you make sure you're smarter in identifying these. And I don't know. I would agree. I think it does look a little too classic. I do like, and I would harp on the caution external email banner. I think that's just pretty much commonplace though now. Without a doubt, you should at least have the notifications like, look, this is outside of your organization. If for whatever reason that's not part of your stack, harp on that.
Yeah. But those are definitely super useful because I think those external email banners are really useful, especially when you're talking about individual users like this. Because if you're talking about a work account, why, like, most emails, unless you're a marketing person or you're a recruiting person, a lot of the emails you receive are going to be from internal people. You're having conversations with your coworkers. So having that banner and noticing it and using it to your advantage, like in this case, like, hey, why am I receiving a document to sign that's from somebody outside of my company? That doesn't make any sense. And again, to me, I like to harp on this. It all comes down to like urgency. Like, if it's not urgent, don't be urgent about it. Don't read it really quickly. Just be like, okay, stop and think for a second. Where is this coming from? And why am I receiving it? But
All right, everybody, we've made it through what? 3? We've made it through maybe 4 emails of 500,000. So strap in. I'm kidding.
We got another one here. I mean, I think this is similar to the PayPal conversation of that trust but verify. Maybe this email looks exactly like what Chase sends. I don't know. I don't have Chase, but maybe it does. Who knows? And even if it did, again, just don't trust the links in here. You know where Chase is. Go open a new tab. Don't click that link. Open Chase and look for your messages. And if you can't find it, and you think that for some reason you're very certain that this is real, then open a support ticket and say, hey, I can't find the message you sent me an email about. And they'll probably say, we didn't send you an email.
So, Caleb, can I go back to kindergarten for a quick sec? And can I ask you, and the explain like I'm 5 approach, the only thing I really see in this email is the link. Hey, the blue text underlined secure message. Well, maybe we've seen in some past others that alluded to, hey, the real attachment is where there could be some Here Be Dragons conversations. Could malware come in this form of just a link? Could it come more often in the malware strain? Or can you help me color the picture as to where is the real threat, if there is, if a user just, hey, gets this, throws it away, or if they were to go click the link? What could happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit on a big one a little bit ago, especially nowadays, is that might send you somewhere to actually view what looks like messages or actually go to some support line that is fake. And they're going to try and convince you and get access to your machine a different way through literally a conversation on a phone call or in a chat or something to make you believe that this is Chase. It could go to another website that asks you for login details to get into your bank account. From a malware perspective, opening a website on its own, is that going to install malware on your machine? Unlikely, but this is all a phishing scam. It's possible. It's totally possible. Don't click on random links, but it's unlikely to be just the act of clicking on the link. There is likely going to be another step of either talking with someone in a chat room or on a phone call to try and convince you to download and install something, or maybe that link goes somewhere that has a download link that wants you to download something. The web page on its own is unlikely to directly install malware, but again, just don't trust the links in emails.
I would pour in just a little sliver of, I guess, Tradecraft and that Tradecraft Tuesday notion. And I don't know if we've done some demos on this in the past. We might have. But if you visit a web page, if you click the link, and whether or not it's the credential stealing, whether or not it's enter your password one way or another, it doesn't matter. It can, like JavaScript client-side code, can push down what folks sometimes call like HTTP smuggling. I've heard some people call it drive-by downloads, and it can like immediately force a file down in a blob. But your browser might add a .download extension, so it's not readily and executable, whatever. It ultimately, again, still relies on the user to click, run, detonate, invoke that file. So don't do that. But I will maybe sprinkle that in.
For sure.
Ooh, browser extensions. That's a good call, Tim Olson. Yeah, a lot of things you could do for persistence, right? But hey, that's our bread and butter over at Huntress.
For sure.
What's next? I like this one a lot.
Yeah, it's funny. Again, I mean, I mentioned this during the intro, but this one makes me laugh simply because I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Do people? Is there some kind of service or like, I don't know, IP phone like software that like sends you your voicemails in an email? I've just never seen a voicemail in an email. So who is reading this thinking, oh yeah, I actually have a voicemail. I need to go click this link to listen to. Like, I don't know. It makes me laugh because I've never seen that. Maybe I'm ignorant. Maybe I'm up there, but
I saw Dave K. I saw Dave Planetlin jump in the chat. Like, yeah, it does happen with VoIP services or SIP or PBX, all those other phone technology acronyms that I'm not super smart on. But yeah, these do come through. And most often, I think at least for what we've seen for the threat, is that the attachment or the link will not be a voice call. Maybe it has a .mp3 extension, but it will add another extension to that for .html. Or then you could do whatever, more client-side code, more forced download. I don't know. If for whatever reason it's a JS script, maybe do some ActiveX objects, get into real malware. But uh, I did comment. I wanted to underline and maybe put the laugh here. Majority, probably, I have to think, audio emails are just going to be phishing.
Yeah.
Sounds like there's a lot in the chat too.
Yeah, I don't know. I would never trust this, but again, like I said, I'm not in the loop of people who get emails about their voicemails. So if I ever receive something like this, I would immediately be like, okay, well, this isn't a thing that could possibly happen. So no.
With that said, my heart goes out to you all fighting the good fight day in and day out.
For sure.
I like the nonstopdogware.eu, but
yeah, I mean, I guess maybe that they were trying to hook people in. They were like, somebody just wants to see pictures of dogs and clothes. Like, I get it. It's cute. It happens.
cool. We're about halfway through, and I'm grateful. I'm happy. I'm glad that I hope that this sort of phishing email cybercrime safari ride is at least a little bit of fun. Thank you all for laughing with us, hopefully not at us. But this one, I think, really leans into
right.
your, that just seems not realistic or possible. What?
Yep. Yeah, this one made me laugh mostly. I think is, at least to me, the big reason why it's here, because again, what's happening here? You don't wire money with OneDrive. To me, this feels like someone was putting together a phishing campaign and mixed up their templates. Like they meant to use the template for like Chase Bank or something, and they accidentally used the template for Microsoft OneDrive. Because like, how would you possibly get money on Microsoft OneDrive? Again, maybe this is like the voicemail thing. Somebody tell me if OneDrive dropped the feature to send money. I don't know, but
I will dance with this for a bit, because you did note that, like, look, they maybe were trying to weaponize this at scale, send them en masse phishing email campaigns, and I will maybe draw attention to, like, look, that is so easy and trivial that's a very much a commoditized thing now, to just mass spray and pray, send it to hundreds of thousands of folks, and then see, look, if even one of them falls for the lure, we got them hook, line, and sinker, then that is new access that they could then use for whatever the case may be. And another thing, if I could sprinkle in, a lot of times these links on their own or whatever lure might not even be a full-blown payload or the malware that they wanted to deliver in the first place. Maybe that's not the end goal in whatever shape that takes. Sometimes they could just be maybe like a link tracker or like a click tracking, maybe marketing, hey, hidden pixel, whatever, just to validate and see, did you do this? Did you follow through with this? Because then the adversary knows you're a soft target, and I can email you again, and I can come back later on in the future. And I am at least relatively high confidence you'll click on whatever crap I send you. So, I don't know, maybe another thing to keep in the back of our mind.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that they, you don't even have to. They could be tracking whoever even opens the email with these HTML emails. I mean, you don't even have to click a link if you open it. Now, granted, there's not a lot you can do against that. Like if you're opening HTML emails, then it's gonna load the image and then they have that ping back. But yeah, they can get a lot of information.
Can I open the can of worms if I ask chat how many of you have just fully disabled HTML emails? And I don't know if that's way
it's
out of
funny.
left.
I feel like that was like a big recommendation for a long time, but nowadays I don't hear about it as much. Maybe I just say I don't use email as much, but it's HTML emails is so common at this point that I don't even know, practically speaking, how you.
I think a lot of
could
times
use an email.
The conversation goes to like, well, we'll rely on our email filtering. We'll use whatever blinky box we bought, and that'll be the crutch, which isn't a bad thing. Like, look, if it's rock solid, then more power to you. But I don't know. I am also, again, just so used to and maybe accustomed to getting HTML emails. If it were just pure plain text, I would be like, well, this is weird.
Yeah, definitely. I was trying to create a poll real quick, although I've never done that before.
Looking good. Well, if you hit the next slide, I can keep us cruising if you did want to keep playing with
For
the poll.
sure.
Do you disable
Yeah.
HTML emails? Look at that.
I hope that works. I've never done a poll on here, but I created one. Somebody suggested it, so I went for it.
Cool. Well, hey, I think at this point, if you haven't already caught on to the trend, if you haven't caught on to the formula, uh, I think we'll just you really I don't want to beat a dead horse, but look, maybe we're a broken record here. It is this sort of scheme, this sort of pretense. Just hey, please update your payment method. You've got a new message, something sent to you, and then you click a link or use a attachment. Uh, I feel like we get to the end of the road, and this starts to kind of get a little bit boring. What say you, Caleb? I don't know. You get an email from Netflix. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's very repetitive. I mean, for this one, I would say the exact same thing we said for half of the other ones. I mean, it says it's from Netflix. The from address is some random thing with admin misspelled. If you actually think it's from Netflix, go to Netflix's website instead of clicking that link. Some more in the weeds things you could look at is, are you from England? Because that's not how you spell center in America. Like that kind of thing, which is a little bit more in the weeds, but like I think it all to me comes down to, hey, who is this message from? Validate that the from address is right. And then also, even if the from address looks right, because depending on the client and verification of email headers and that kind of thing, maybe the from address was spoofed. So even if the from address looks right, don't trust the links or the downloads in the email. There's an email from a business, go to that business's website. If you can't find the thing that's being referenced, either start a support ticket directly from their website or ignore the email because it's probably spam.
With that, I did just totally want to acknowledge. I know, hey, maybe we get to the end of the road and it's just boring, plain old cookie cutter phishing emails. There are a couple of other worthwhile ones, though, I think. If you don't mind hitting the next slide, this one, meh, hey, Dashlane, maybe your password manager. Okay, if you just happen to get it right with whatever that user ends up using in that organization for their technology stack, whether it's a Bitwarden, whether it's a LastPass, whether it's whatever. But I don't think there's more to riff on this one, and maybe we just keep on going. What do you think, Caleb? Am I missing anything here?
No, I mean, I think you're right. Again, open your password manager; it'll show you the things that were shared with you. Don't click the link.
Trust but verify. 500,000 emails just to get to that. This one, I think, I do appreciate because this opens another can of worms that is a good while talk track on maybe almost along the lines of CEO impersonation, and not strictly the CEO, not strictly the head honchos or top dogs at your organization, but any individual, any employee, anyone part of the team, where they send an email that looks wrong, that looks malicious, that could be a phishing link, and that could very well fall down the road of business email compromise, right? Because at the very top here, hey, Doug, for I don't know, our cast of characters, let me just choose a random name. Our individual Doug is compromised, sends this email out to everyone, and then below there's an underneath email that says, look, you maybe received this email from our teammate, from our actual member of the organization and company, and that was malicious from Doug. Don't click on the link. We've revoked their account. Don't do anything with their activity at the moment. Is this realistic? Can I ask you in the chat, and then can I ask you on Caleb in your mind? I think this gets to a little bit more realism when it is quote unquote legitimate coming from a team member.
Sure. And I think this is a lot less common
Right.
in general. Like this assumes that someone in your company has been compromised, which is not impossible, obviously, as we all know. Like things happen. People get compromised, people get their credentials stolen, so on and so forth. This one I think comes down to there's not a lot that you could do besides knowing who your teammates are. This is a very human problem. Like if someone has access to their email and they can send you an email, then it comes down to, do you expect to get that email from that person? Do you expect to be talking to this person? And that's all very fuzzy, hard to define, and it's going to catch a lot of people probably, because if I received an email from John Hammond, I didn't know his account was compromised, and he said, "Hey, here's a link to, I don't know, maybe you sent me a Slack link," because a Slack link could be an attachment link, right? If you sent me an email with a Slack link, I'm going to be honest, I'd probably be like, "Oh yeah, it's John. Like I can see that's legitimately John. It's coming from our organization. It's an internal email. It's a link to Slack. Sure." And I would probably click it. So I think it comes down to like, how well can the attacker replicate what is normal, which would require them to read your previous emails, which they probably can do. And then also, what other security controls do you have in your organization? Is it going to get caught by your local security stuff? Is it going to get caught as just like the template of the email looks like a phishing email, which means they probably didn't try very hard. But
yeah, I think that one was just worth thinking about.
yeah, it's a hard problem, because at that point, like I said, if it's a legitimate email address, like internal email address coming to my internal email address, like I'm likely going to trust it, even if I did the due diligence to look at what's going on. It's probably going to look legitimate. Although I will say, on a side note, I actually, in reality, probably wouldn't trust an email from you with a link, just because that's not how we communicate. But
are you? I got a quick note of.
for sure.
No, sorry. Big Marker was giving me a heads up banner. Hey, we can't hear you. Your microphone isn't doing anything. Is audio still all good?
I can still hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we were to drive down and actually get some of the nerd tech as to those emails and what they were made up of, again, some of them could be legitimate. Some of them could be maybe a phish test. Maybe some of them could be malware. This forgesage12strong.com was, I think, the link that our villainous Doug had sent out to the company. And let me be the first to say, this is some time ago. I don't know if the email on that timestamp was like 2020 or 2021. But if we tried to do our due diligence and wanted to, I don't know, go peer and poke, I don't know, what does virus total say? Or are there any historical evidence as to this thing being malicious at some point in time? There's not a whole lot for me to run down on this. I'll be the first to admit. Someone sure saw it was phishing. Maybe they got just luck of the draw. They were the ones that caught wind of this email. And if you don't mind cruising through a couple more clicks, Caleb, I think the portion here is that it's just learn how to earn Ethereum daily. Hey, do some cryptocurrency crap. So goodness, maybe you used this business email compromise and then all you did was send along crypto mining stuff. Whatever.
Yeah.
What else are we seeing? Anything for this one?
What was this one?
I mean, can dance with this if need be.
Yeah, for sure.
I tried to do a little bit more research and again some Googling, do my homework on that r20.rs6.net, whatever, because that would seem to be the only link in whatever past PDF or Word document that was sent. But that is apparently, again, trying to Google around, just trying to look, apparently just one of those click tracker things for like a constant contact or for like a newsletter equivalent, maybe a beehive, maybe a course, whatever. Because if you actually dig into some of the community comments on Virus Total, maybe some folks have seen this. I'd love to ask. Yeah, okay. Even they're already chatting it. Constant contact redirect, they see this just about all the time. And whether or not that's used maliciously or not, I think, again, you can drill down on that idea of, look, they just want to see, did you click the link? And are you a victim or someone that we could do more damage to later on? I can't say with 1,000% certainty if it was just a genuine thing or not, but wrapped inside of a, hey, we just sent you a payment PDF, go click here, I don't have a lot of hope.
Yeah. This one was kind of interesting. I forget exactly which email this was. Was this the same sample or was this a different one? I forget.
This is on the next slide. You can see the actual contents of the email.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I'm excited for this one because I hope chat lights up. I think everyone has gotten this email or a variation of it. But it's really funny because while we were trying to work through and massage all this data, 500,000 emails that we're trying to crash course here, Defender, Windows Defender, my antivirus, sprung into action and said, "Hey, that's crypto extortion." And I was like, "Hang on, this is an email." And you made the point. You made the point, Caleb. I'll let you kind of fill in the gaps, but that wouldn't normally happen. Is that fair to say?
I think it depends. I to be honest with you, haven't used Outlook in a long time, so maybe like a local desktop client Outlook might end up alerting on this. But if you're using a web client to view an HTML email, you wouldn't likely see this message. This was Defender scanning the physical file on disk that you had saved with the HTML in it. But it is interesting that it's flagged it in any case.
So let's hit the next slide. And I'm super curious. Have you all seen this stupid, dumb email from
Have you or a loved one?
They say, "Look, I've got this advanced remote access Trojan and this cool command and control framework, and I hacked you while you were being a bad person, maybe looking at some adult content, not safe for work stuff, and now I want to use that as leverage and extortion against you. But you could avoid all of this if I don't send this to all of your contacts if you give me Bitcoin." And they include their Bitcoin wallet address. And I know I don't know, I think a handful of people have gotten this email, and maybe some folks are a little bit spooked. But yeah, old scam. I see it in the chat. All this. What are you? Why do you
Yeah, I
think
didn't realize this was. I didn't realize this was still common because, like people have mentioned, this is a very old thing. But it is interesting to see it around. What did you ask? I'm sorry, I think I talked over you.
I was curious, and I'd love to get comments from the chat. Like, what would Defender flag on this? Just the fact that there's a Bitcoin address in there? Maybe
I think it could easily be like some like fuzzy matching on the template of the email, because like people have mentioned, this is not a new way to get people to send money, like a scam like this. So like some sort of fuzzy matching on like the structure of the email, talking about viruses and their malware and also a Bitcoin address and that kind of thing, I imagine.
Cool. All right, everyone, we are reaching the end of our 500,000 phishing email saga. I know it might have seemed like a breeze just cruising through. This, I think, was another one maybe worth mentioning because you've got the silly Dumbo like link shortener or URL in there, a bit.ly link. Do you know of any others, Caleb? Any of those? Bit.ly is probably the most common, but like a URL shortener to compress what would be a long link to show their actual domain and hide or mask it in something like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bitly is going to be the most common. There's a bunch of those services out there. I think any legitimate service is not going to use the link shortener, or if they do, it's going to be a link shortener that their business runs. So, like, if this is, I don't remember what company, that's a bank. So, like, if a bank wanted to use a link shortener, hopefully they would just host their own on their domain, so you can at least tell that it's coming from the bank's domain. But yeah, there's a ton of them. I would argue any email or any link in an email coming from Bitly is suspicious to begin with. Like, why are you using Bitly to send me a link in an email? That's weird.
I would say that this is stupid. It's dumb. Yeah. It's the lowest hanging fruit. It's the bottom of the barrel. So with that, I don't know. The next slide, I think, hopefully tees up, and this is really good timing. I think, hey, we're getting close to the end here. Probably our takeaways. And I'd love to ask you in the chat, maybe you've caught, again, the trend, the formula, the really overarching impression interpretation here. But I think we can pull back the curtain, Caleb. Maybe the next slide just says, like, look, this wasn't all that impressive. It's nothing fancy. There's no elite, hardcore, I don't know, 0 days, hot, sexy wizard, black arts exploits or malware. We try to chat a little bit about QR code stuff, and we can dance with that in a moment. But Caleb, I don't want to be taking any of the wind out of your sails here. What do you think? Is it?
Yeah, I agree. I think most phishing emails are mass attempts. They're not trying to be perfect. They're not trying to be good. They're trying to be good enough, and then they're going to send it to 1 million people, 10 million people, whatever, across the world. And most of us are going to look at it and go, that's stupid. But then 1% of us are going to click on it because we were too busy, too distracted. Maybe it's someone who just doesn't know. But when you send it to 10 million people, 1% is a lot.
And I think, look, maybe turning the tables, and I appreciate seeing it in the chat just as well. Hey, that's okay. Like, that was the goal. That was what we wanted all along, is to at least desensitize ourselves and know and readily identify, hey, detect, see those signs, and be able to say that's not good, and I don't want to interact with that. And we maybe have a certain amount of that confirmation bias cluster in our own bubble. Preaching to the choir. Everyone here in this call knows, hey, that looks sketchy. But I hope we're doing the right thing, trying to get that info out. And I appreciate Rob in the chat. Hey, would my mom fall for this? Would grandma, grandpa? Would maybe less folks aware? And how can we raise the bar for that security awareness training?
Yep. I think that's the big thing with the training side, is that it's not about making it so no one ever clicks a link, because you can't do that. It's about making sure that as many people as possible are familiar with what it looks like.
If you're willing, just to go back one quick slide, I would love to dance with and maybe get your thoughts, and maybe again crowdsource from chat, those QR codes. This is something that we were kind of sprinkling in for some of the Huntress security awareness training, getting maybe like a Microsoft 365 or maybe some other online service where you hold your phone up and log in with a QR code that's included in the email. Maybe that's more readily a trick. But how that could be built, we didn't see it in any of these phishing emails, I got to be honest. But there's some conversations and talk track to that, because a QR code, when folks say, look, I'm not going to get those emails because my email filtering will block that image or something like that, I would say it doesn't have to be an image, because you could make that as a table in HTML with like black and white bars, whatever. And then I also wonder, well, if people say, well, okay, we'll deny all those HTML. Am I crazy, Caleb? But you could use some like the weird Unicode, like the box characters, and fake a QR code in plain text.
In theory, although I don't know that I've ever seen someone try to do that in plain text in like an email. That is an interesting thought of whether or not that would work. I mean, there are Unicode characters for like just blocks, like a solid block. So in theory, you could do it. Whether or not you could get the proportions right to make the error checking work on the QR code, that is an interesting question.
I know I'm reaching for straws to a certain extent, but I wondered, and maybe that would be a fun little project or some cool proof of concept we'd cook up.
The thing with QR codes, I think, comes back to like how common they are. Like, we're all, I think, especially in this circle and in general in the world, at least getting better, are used to, there's a link, like, just because it's blue text, like, I should look and see what that link points to before I click on it, like that kind of thing. Especially in this room, the world's getting better, everyone's not perfect, but so on and so forth. There's at least something that's on our mind. I think QR codes they're not new by any means, but I think that they are less thought of like that, when in reality you should be doing the same thing. Like, I'm not sure what it looks like on an iPhone. On an Android, when you scan a QR code, it'll give you a little notification with the content of it and ask you if you want to open it, and just like read the link. And once you know what the link says, it's the same steps as before. I would argue, don't scan a QR code from an email, period. Even if it is real, just go to the website and find it a different way. But just like links in an email, sometimes you need to, sometimes you want to, whatever. And if you're going to do that, you need to do the due diligence of like, hey, where is this link actually pointing? Because effectively and practically, a QR code in an email is the same as like a blue text link with some other text, in that it is a link to something that you can't see the underlying URL unless you do a couple extra steps.
Thank you, Zach Brown in the chat, dropping a QR code block.
Does that actually display as a QR code for you? The new lines are all off for me.
Yeah, it breaks completely. But in a pre-formatted email, I don't know, maybe. Well, hey, this is awesome. Hey, we're getting to the last 5 minutes, and if I may, I'd love to. I would like to kind of fall on my sword and say, look, we were a little bit worried that this wouldn't be as cool or as elite or as sexy of a Tradecraft Tuesday episode as what we'd like to bring you. We did cruise through 500,000 phishing emails, but I know we can't cram that all into 1 hour, and it is just phishing emails that might be cookie cutter and formulaic. But please let me know any of that feedback or constructive criticism was like, hey, this was kind of fun just to go through that safari ride and recognize things that we have seen, and like, hey, we've seen that. So please say the word. But with that, I'd love to wrap up maybe the last couple obligatory slides, and we have time for Q&A. We're going to try for it.
For sure.
Where in the world is Huntress? HIMSS, it's another sweet conference going on. I believe Max Rogers, one of our other super smart head honcho folks for the Security Operations Center, is present, in case anyone happens to be there, coming up soon. Cyber Defense Lab and Enable Empower, I will admit, I don't know a whole lot about, but you can always track, hey, where Huntress is going to be at next if you want to take a look at our resources and upcoming events. If you're able to say hi, grab some breaches and brews. Hey, maybe get a koozie, maybe get some sweet swag, a couple t-shirts. We'd love for you to say hello. Next one coming up is other sweet Tradecraft Tuesdays. If we got the next slide there, Caleb, something that I'm pretty excited about. The next show is with Chris Henderson, Faith Stratton, some incredible strong arms at Huntress, but a little extra community in the mix. If folks are familiar with Edwin David, he's Root Sec Dev online, if folks are on Twitter or X. And he's doing some incredible stuff for a lot of Microsoft 365 security over at Trusted Sec. So we're super duper excited to have him join the party. And then following that, come May, we'll finally give a little bit more love to the Mac world and that whole Apple ecosystem. Stuart is a wizard on our end that's been cutting up a lot of the Mac security for EDR. And Alden Schmidt, a great friend of mine, and I'm glad we got to bring him into the mix. We'll be chatting a little bit more about the detection efforts and all the cool things. So please, if you haven't, hey, get those slots booked in your calendar, and we'd love to see you for the next Tradecraft Tuesday. Any awesome Q&A we should dig into? Last couple moments.
I was just popping over there to look and see what questions people had pushed in. There's a question from Tanner about the DMARC policies. I will admit I'm not a wizard on all of the email policy stuff. I will say a majority of the emails that I look through, we did a little bit of statistical stuff all across the emails. A lot of them passed most of the. I get them muddy because I'm not an email like server wizard, but a lot of the SPF, your DMARC, your whatever the other one is that I forget the name of now. A lot of those were passing, and that comes from. There's a lot of emails in there coming from things that are like legitimate Google, like Gmail addresses that for some reason people are sending spam emails from and that kind of thing. But there was a lot of stuff that was passing. So I think it just depends. I think it's good to have that set up configured properly, but it's not going to block everything. It's never going to be a one size fits all and stop all of it. Trying to figure out how to get back out of that question. Oh, there we go. Right. I'm new to this platform.
I see one from Randall. Hey, does Huntress do phishing email testing? If I'm understanding correctly, what you're asking and what you're getting at, yes. Our security awareness training is, hey, all about that, trying to get some education, some training and episodes for you all, alongside that simulated phishing tests that we've kind of managed. And we have some new incredible security researchers that will try to get more current events, more topical stuff for actual malware strains that are out there and the phishing emails that the world is seeing in the wild. So try to keep you pertinent. If you're up for it, though, we have a cool little splash balloon on, hey, there's another webinar coming up on March 19th. If you wanted to learn a little bit more about the security awareness training, that's the place to be.
So, Philip Waters asked about reporting SMS phishing. That is interesting. I think that you're referring to like on your phone if you get an SMS and like clicking the report button on there. My assumption would be that depends on what your phone is. So like I have a Pixel phone, for example. So if I click that, you're reporting that to Google. So I mean, it's good. to do that, it's gonna help Google automatically block spam. I assume Apple has a similar thing on Apple phones. I don't know if other Android phones are different, but it's going to be specific to whatever organization or company made your phone, probably. But I mean, it's always good to report things that are bad.
Sweet. I think we are at the top of the hour, and there has been a little bit of a symptom in the last couple Tradecraft Tuesdays where they run crazy late. It take an hour and a half, and if folks wanted to hang out, you're more than welcome to. But I think we might be able to take this and get back to our roots, where we let y'all go at the top of the hour. We'll spin things down, unless there's anything more, Caleb. But I'm pretty happy. I think this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it went well. Appreciate you guys all being here, ask questions, being interactive in the chat. Great.
Well, don't be a stranger. You know where to find us. But thank you all, and we'll catch you in the next one. Take care.